Just a babysitter on the hill. One of them sneered, but Erin Vale didn't react. She only adjusted her binoculars and watched the slow movement of the convoy below. The others laughed, never realizing the woman they mocked was the one actually keeping them breathing. When the radios went dead and gunfire cracked across the valley, she was already up, giving short, calm commands through her headset. If you've ever seen confidence so steady it silences everyone around, you know what real control feels like. Falcon Unit had been sent deep into the woods for reconnaissance, a live drill zone filled with unstable ground and blackouts that swallowed signals whole. Erin was stationed high on Ironvale Ridge. Perfect view, zero respect. "You're the babysitter, huh?" A young sergeant smirked, tugging his vest. "Just keep an eye on the monitors while the grown-ups handle things." She gave a slight nod, her expression unreadable. They laughed again and clattered down the slope, their boots crunching until the sound vanished into the trees. Within minutes, they were gone. Her call sign was Echo 9, not that anyone cared to ask. Nobody wondered why someone with high-grade recon tech had been assigned to observation. She managed silent overwatch, drones, thermal imaging, encrypted comms, every movement deliberate, every input precise, invisible to anyone who didn't understand tactical rhythm. Earlier that morning, one officer muttered, "She's just support, right?" "Yeah," another said without glancing from his coffee. "Babysitter duty. She watches, we move." They had no clue the so-called support once led Overwatch for Tier 1 operations across 3 combat zones, or that her personnel file carried clearance they'd never touch. Erin never corrected them. Time in the field had taught her that actions shout louder than rank. The morning briefing was the usual chaos. Maps scattered, red marks on plastic, risk charts tossed around by men who'd never watched a plan implode. Nobody sought her input. She stood at the back, arms loose, eyes noting every missed detail, the forecast, the terrain shifts, the timing gaps. "Simple recon," the team leader said, tapping the map. "In and out, 2 hours max. Verify the site, take the photo, extract before lunch." Erin caught the horizon shifting, the wind twisting northeast to southwest, and saw gaps in formation that left their flanks open. She stayed silent. They wouldn't have listened anyway. Hours later, as the valley fell still, her gaze sharpened through the lenses. Movement. Not deer or wind through branches, but bursts of heat along the convoy route. Too many, too tight, too intentional. She switched frequencies with trained precision. "One on unit, this is Echo 9. Possible thermal contacts on your left flank. Recommend immediate course correction." "Copy that, Echo," came a lazy voice, almost dismissive. "Probably wildlife, maybe deer or boar, happens all the time." Erin tightened her jaw and zoomed her scope. Those readings weren't animals, they were armed men. She identified weapon heat, spacing, formation. Negative, those are hostiles. Her feed burst into static, then went black. Her breathing steadied. She'd seen this pattern before, in places erased from the records. The first explosion ripped through the valley like thunder splitting the ground. Dust and smoke swallowed her sight. Debris rained, trees shattered. The shockwave rolled through the air with weight. "Command, Echo 9. Lost visuals on Falcon Unit. Repeat, visuals compromised. Hostile contact confirmed." The response was hollow. She switched to backup channels, fingers moving fast. Nothing but interference. The blast's EMP had fried half the bands. Classic ambush. Whoever set it up knew their craft. Her hands flew across the console, recalibrating drones, rebooting frequencies, forcing range beyond limits, overriding safety locks she wasn't meant to touch. The cracked display flickered back to life. 3 vehicles down, frames torn, fires burning, figures stumbling in panic. She counted heads, ran mental triage from 300 meters away, then keyed the mic with calm control. Falcon Unit, this is Echo 9. Regroup at grid 0423. Do not move north. Repeat, do not move north. Enemy concentration there. Survivors stumbled into view through the haze, wounded and disoriented, faces streaked with blood and dust. Who the hell's talking? One voice barked through the static. Erin didn't respond. She was already mapping their escape on the tactical display, tracing terrain routes, threat lines, and exfil points simultaneously. Her fingers drew green exit paths, red enemy positions, and choke zones where the forest closed in. Every second counted. Every call was irreversible. There are no replays in a firefight, no second chances in combat. Echo 9, identify yourself, someone demanded again. Silence filled the ridge until her voice returned, sharp and steady, radiating command. Follow my mark. Don't stray. Don't stop. Move now. They hesitated until her laser cut a fine line through the smoke, a glowing path through chaos, a way out where none existed. A soldier glanced upward, squinting through the fog. Is that the babysitter? He muttered. Shut up and move, another snapped, dragging him forward. Enemy fire shifted, tracking her instead. She was pulling them toward herself, baiting the enemy away from the wounded, turning into the obvious target. Overhead, her drone looped its programmed circuit, its live feed flooding her display with rapid data. Gunfire flared across the thermal view like bursts of firelight. She counted quietly. 12 hostiles, no, 15. 2 more flanking from the east ridge. 17 total. 3 coordinated squads. She sank lower behind the rocks, minimizing her silhouette, and switched the drone to manual control. Her thumbs flew across the console. One precise strike, then another, each blast carving open a few meters of safety. The detonations advanced in rhythm, clearing a corridor for escape. Nothing random, every explosion calculated, ruthless, almost poetic. Each hit erased a threat without touching the survivors below. Back at Ironvale Base, chaos broke in the command tower. Who authorized those drone strikes? A major shouted. Echo 9? A technician stammered, chasing authorization codes with shaking fingers. But she doesn't have clearance. She does now, said a voice from the doorway. Colonel Drake, his face marked by years of deployment. She's been off the grid for a decade. You don't question her. You don't second-guess her. You thank God she's with us, someone breathed, and the tech officer went pale at the mention of the blacklist and the ghost operators who don't exist on paper. The commander stayed glued to the live feed. Right now, she was the only reason Falcon Unit hadn't turned into body bags, as night fell fast over the valley. Fires scattered across the slopes painted everything orange against the dark, while Erin Vale hadn't moved from her perch for hours, only fine-tuning thermal settings and cycling frequencies, hunting for a clean signal through the noise. Below, the soldiers formed a defensive ring, weapons pointed outward in every direction. Aware of the encirclement, and aware she knew it too, it became a test of patience and nerve because they couldn't guess what tools she still had to call on. One man, barely conscious and propped against a bullet-ripped vehicle, blinked at his radio and croaked, "Whoever you are, thank you. We'd be dead without you," the words trembling through static. Erin Vale didn't answer. She didn't need to. Out here, words mean less than action. From her pack, she pulled an old, weather-sealed transmitter, heavier and older than standard issue, the sort of gear earned in places that officially don't exist and missions no report would ever admit. The antenna clicked out with a solid metallic sound. She punched in a 7-digit code burned into her memory, heard the low tone, watched the green light. Connection locked, and a satellite threaded to her coordinates. Echo 9, this is Command Actual. Clearance confirmed, authorization verified. You're live for strike package deployment, the voice said, and her tone stayed level and detached. Send strike package Delta, grid 0427, time on target 2 minutes, she replied. Copy, Echo 9. Ma'am, that's danger close to our people, margins under 20 meters, came the hesitant answer. I know the distance, she said evenly. Trust me. I've done this before. Silence followed, taut with doubt, and on her thermal display the enemy tightened the net. 50 meters out, then 40, then 30. Predators certain of their kill. Falcon unit, she transmitted across the emergency band. On my mark, hit the ground and cover your heads. Don't look up, don't move, don't ask. 10 seconds. What's happening? A voice yelled. 9 seconds. Who are you? Another demanded. 3, 2, 1. Now. The night ignited into blinding day. Clean, brutal, precise. Every hostile position surrounding the unit vanished in a perfect ring of fire. The blasts formed a flawless circle, close enough for the soldiers to feel the heat brush their skin, far enough to leave them alive. The math of destruction, the geometry of survival. When the thunder faded and the smoke thinned, silence crept back. Then came coughing, gasping, the fragile sound of breath returning. When quiet finally held, she rose, joints stiff after hours unmoving. Below, her laser beam pierced the darkness, straight as a compass north. A lighthouse in chaos, a visible promise. They followed it, limping, bleeding, but alive. Every single one. Minutes later, medevac rotors screamed overhead. As the wounded were lifted out, a soldier grabbed a medic's sleeve. The woman on the ridge. Who is she? What's her name? The medic looked toward Ironvale Ridge, eyes narrowing into the dark. You don't know? They said she was just support. The medic shook his head slowly, almost solemn. Then you don't know who just saved your life. Back at command, a young lieutenant fresh from training replayed the footage in disbelief. She ran a one-woman rescue op, he whispered. Every strike perfect, every call exact. It shouldn't be possible. Yet there it was on the screen. Colonel Drake stepped in, coffee in hand, fatigue etched deep. Sir, who is she? The lieutenant asked, eyes fixed on the image of a lone figure against the flames. A silhouette on Ironvale Ridge that looked almost sacred. That's no babysitter, Drake said quietly, voice raw with respect. That's Major Erin Vale, former Overwatch Unit 7. Last time she was field active, an entire platoon survived an ambush because she stayed awake 72 hours straight. No sleep, just vigilance. The room went dead quiet. Even the hum of the machines seemed to pause. Then why surveillance duty? The young officer asked, stunned. That's a waste of skill. Her choice, Colonel Drake replied, his tone heavy with understanding. She'd had enough of salutes and ceremony. She just wanted to work, away from the noise. The lieutenant stared, speechless. She saved 9 lives tonight. She saved more than you'll ever know, Drake said softly, turning away. And that's exactly how she prefers it. By sunrise, Falcon Unit limped back through the base gates. The young sergeant who'd mocked her before spotted her again on the ridge. Steady, calm, unchanged. He approached slowly, boots scraping gravel, suddenly aware of how small he felt. "Ma'am," he rasped, "you saved us. All of us." She gave a single nod. "Just doing my job." "We didn't know who you were," he murmured. "Didn't have to," she answered, eyes still scanning the horizon. "You just needed to listen when it mattered." He lingered, words caught in his throat, then raised his hand in a crisp salute, the way it should have been the first time. She returned it, exact and sharp, and something passed between them, respect, understanding. After that day, no one at Ironvale Base ever used the word babysitter again. The ridge was renamed Echo Point in her honor, and whenever a rookie complained about being stuck on observation, someone would simply say, "That's where she watched over us." The story spread quietly, not in reports, but in whispers between soldiers, in the moments before missions, in lessons from the living. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous, and the greatest leaders never ask for the title. True respect isn't worn, it's earned. Subscribe to Captain Joe's Stories for more tales where silence saves lives.